Welcome to MGS The Twin Snakes. This is my first run. I'm running this on Dolphin with a PS4 controller to emulate a GameCube controller. We're going to be going over some of the strats that are going to be used on harder difficulties, such as extreme and BigBoss runs. But we're going to be doing them on normal difficulty, just to have a little bit of a safety net and have a little bit of leeway, though there will be some mess-ups and one or two accidental deaths in this run. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go under the pipe, because it's a little bit faster than going through the actual grate. It's smaller. And then we're going to go right up the left aisle into the locker where the M9 is, and then wait for the elevator. Because this is normal difficulty, we do not have to do a wait cycle for the patrol pattern. On extreme, there is a patrol pattern difference, so you have to wait to where you see the boss is right now, and then you would have to be able to pass them on extreme. So you would actually have to slip past them when they're facing the opposite direction. But because this is normal, he's already in the middle aisle, so you can just run up the left side, go right into the locker, grab the M9, and wait for the elevator, and you don't have to worry about much else until then. Once the elevator comes down, though, we're going to pin ourselves up against the wall that you see up in the north, and as soon as the guard steps off the elevator and is out of our way, we're going to slip onto the elevator and make our way to the next area, which will be the helipad. Alright, so here comes the elevator. We're going to get out of this locker. Now, the guard that is looking in our direction can't see us because it's normal difficulty, so his eyesight isn't as good. So we're just going to slip past the guard coming off the elevator and move on to the helipad. On extreme, that guard's position, the one that was looking at us, is in a slightly different position because, like I said, their patterns are a little bit different for that difficulty. So you don't have to worry about him at all. You basically slip by it in the same exact way. So we're going to skip past all the text and get past all of the videos, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go immediately through the helipad's lights but not get seen. We're going to go to the left side room and we're going to grab the stun grenade. The stun grenades we're going to hold on to for a little bit later. We don't need them immediately yet, but we are going to use the M9 that we picked up in this helipad, and you'll see exactly where. Alright, so we grab that stun grenade. So there's going to be a guard in front of the vent and the camera. The positioning is a little bit different of the camera in this game versus the original. What we're going to do is we're going to first person shoot this guy in the leg because he was sleeping, just to wake him up, walk past the truck, and then he's going to notice us. But unfortunately his eyesight is crap, so we're just going to slip past him on the left side. The camera is in a bad angle, and we're just going to go right through. Now you're going to be seeing a very annoying glitch, but it's kind of necessary, is I'm going to be mashing the equip unequip button to get a little bit of a movement speed buff while I'm crawling. It's about a 10% buff. For every 10 seconds of mashing, you save about 1 second in real time. So it's not the largest source of time save, but it is necessary. Now in this particular area it is necessary because of the patrol cycle that we're going to be encountering. If we were moving slower, we would get spotted as soon as we exit the vent by a guard's patrol pattern. However, speeding up the crawl speed by using that glitch actually allows us to get there before he rounds that corner, allowing us to slip past and then not be seen. We're going to step on the metal so that way he hears it, runs around. This guard that's on our left is in the perfect position now because he's on the far left side, allowing us to get straight to the elevator. If we did not use that glitch, the guard that we distracted would already be facing the vent, so we would get immediately spotted. And if we were only did it a little bit, we would barely slip past him, but then the guard that we saw on the left-hand side would be facing us and he would spot us. So using that weapon glitch is actually necessary to get through that area without being seen, at least using it from that particular vent. We're going to do it again here. Just again, it's 10% movement speed, so we're just going to use that to get through and try to get past the vents as fast as possible. This is going to lead us into the mass guard fight, which isn't too terrible. One thing that we're going to try to do is the very last guard we're going to let Meryl kill, and the reason for that is that it's faster. The animation of me putting them to sleep is a few frames slower than her actually killing them. They actually disappear because that's what actually stops the alert, is when their bodies actually phase out, not when they die. So them phasing out quicker via death is easier on our time save. I'm going to grab a quick ration here for safety. I try not to use rations even in normal mode. I try to do a rationless run. I have them for safety areas from when I'm practicing. I've only been practicing this game for a few days now, so I still kind of need them at times, but I purposely try to avoid using them, but I have them on the just in case. So we're gonna head into this guard fight once she opens the door for us, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not gonna do particularly well because I'm still learning where all their patterns are, but the idea that I try to go for here is I go into first person view, I use the B button, which is circle on my PS4, and I try to headshot the first 3 guards as quickly as possible. We're gonna wait for this little cutscene to play out. She's going to shoot the next 3 guards, and then on the next wave of 3, I want to try to get the left and middle guard and let her kill the guard on the right. While she's killing the guard on the right, I want to be able to slip to the door on the left hand side and try to look into the hallway. With good aiming and good accuracy, and God willing the game doesn't eat your inputs as you try to shoot, you can actually get the headshots before they even enter. Like what you saw there, I was facing 2 guards in the head and I was releasing the button, but it didn't want to shoot. It happens. But with the right positioning, you can actually take these guys out in the hallway before it ever makes it into the room, and they can't shoot you when they're in the hallway. It's actually a fun fact. So you actually save a little bit on damage as well as time. As I said, the last guard we're going to let Meryl kill just because it makes things progress a little bit faster. I am going to grab some safety ammo though. I'm going to head into the restroom on the bottom right where you normally can find Johnny, and there is some M9 ammo in there for me. The book is just grabbed because it's there. Not because of any particular use. We don't use that at all in this run. As we come into basement 2, we're going to be grabbing a few items that we're going to need for the remainder of the run. I'm going to grab the C4. Normally you can ignore the 2 C4s that are in the locker. However, I grabbed them out of safety as a just in case. I somehow slipped, missing that C4 at the end there. We're going to blow up this wall here. Nice little proximity, not so much a glitch but exploit in this game, is I don't have to put the C4 directly on the paintless area like you do in the original game. You can actually put it a little bit away from it and still blow up that area as if it was right there and not take damage. So it allows you to get in and out of these doors a lot faster. I'm still learning the exact most optimal areas to place them, but it's a nice little trick to come across. So one more, and we'll be heading into the Ocelot boss fight, which is really easy. It takes 3 headshots on normal, I believe either the same or 4 on extreme for BigBoss. And really easy setup is don't move, immediately switch to your M9, hit B in first person view, and then if you hold the right trigger like you see on my inputs, I can actually dip behind the wall, wait for him to shoot, he'll pick his head out, and as soon as I see him do that, I release my right trigger, so that way I go back into normal standing position, and I'm already lined up on his face, so I just immediately just have to release the shoot button, and he's taking a headshot, and we're done with this fight. 3 headshots, and the fight is complete. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to immediately hold start and A, which for me I have set to square. That way it's a shoot button, and it's similar to what it was on the PS1 for the original game. I'm going to hold both inputs, and I'm going to try to calm arrow as fast as possible. And unfortunately, I hit circle thinking that was the action button like it was in the original game, and instead of hitting triangle or shoot. So still trying to get used to some of the muscle memory, admittedly, but getting there. It takes some time. So we're going to skip past this conversation, and I'm going to fail on a trick that's coming up. I've gotten it once or twice by complete utter accident, not realizing it was a trick, and then I could never ever replicate that again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the tanker room, or the tank room in the first floor, and there's a way to actually immediately get into the codec call with Meryl. That way there's no wait time. There's not that half-second delay as it shows you the codec. It just immediately pops up, and then immediately skip the door opening cutscene. If you can do both of those fast enough, you can actually slip into that laser room in such a way that the laser's positioning allow you to roll past the first 3 lasers, and then you can either hold the roll button and crawl the rest of the way, or you can simply just stand after the initial roll and shoot the remaining 3 laser turrets so that they're not there, and then just run the rest of the way. I failed twice. I decided to, for the safety purposes of time, I decided to just crawl. And the pattern I found for crawling that makes it work efficiently is as soon as the camera changes when I walk into this airlock area and the camera changes, if I'm immediately on the ground, I can then just crawl. I do a little bit of weapon glitching just to kind of hopefully finagle the fact that maybe I'm a little too slow or maybe a little too quick in some areas, and I just try to like put myself in the right pace, and then I make myself through. Now we're coming up on the hardest fight in the game, in my opinion. Tied for the hardest fight in the game. The tank. Unlike in the original game, where the tank is a joke, this game, the tank is actually pretty hard. The tank actually has a lot of nuance to it. It is pure execution. It's not really that random, though I've felt sometimes that it could be random, and I've seen other people complain that it can be random, like other speedrunners and people learning the game. But the truth of the matter is, it's not. It's literally just how good you are as a player in this particular fight. The better you are, the easier the fight is. Now, there might be some differences in the AI. Like on extreme, I don't normally see the tank drive that fast. On normal, the tank's already driving, so there might be some AI minor differences. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the 2 claymores. We're going to use 1 to 2 C4, and we're going to blow the treads and basically grind it to almost near halt. Then we're going to try to use 3 stun grenades per gunner and be done with this fight. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite go that way. There is a magic spot to stand, and the magic spot to stand is when you're underneath the gun. You'll see there's the large part of the cylinder where it meets into the thinner barrel. If you look carefully at that, there's an actual almost what looks like a white stripe. If Snake's head is underneath that white stripe and you're perfectly facing where the gunner would be, if you just lob the grenade, don't cook it, just lob it in, it should 9 times out of 10 just go into his lap, and it deals double damage, which is how you want to do this fight. Unfortunately, I'm still learning it, and I'm still trying to get used to it, and I completely and utterly messed this up. And my aim is crap also in this for some reason. I guess I'm still getting used to my controller configuration for this. I wasn't really on point with this, but you can get a few headshots. Now, there is a nice glitch with this fight, however. If you happen to have any empty magazines, for example, I've seen some runners where when they originally get the SOCOM, they immediately dump out every bullet in the SOCOM. They just fire it off randomly to get the magazine. You can lob the magazine into the lap of the gunner. It'll show the little animation of it sitting in his lap, and if you immediately headshot him after you hit him in the lap with an empty magazine, it for some reason pretends that it's a stun grenade and hits him for that max damage of a stun grenade, which is about a third of his life in one shot, with the M9. We don't know why it does that. It's probably just a coding thing, but I die right there. It's probably just a coding thing for some reason. It registers the video of you lobbing something into his lap, and it plays that little mini cutscene, and then he gets hit for stamina damage instead of health damage. Maybe those two together make it think that it's a stun grenade. But if you ever run out of stun grenades, that is an option. If you have magazines, you can honestly throw the magazine into his lap, shoot him in the head with the M9, and it'll deal the same damage as if you threw a stun grenade into his lap. So this is, I think, the final attempt that I do on the tank, and I think I get it this time. But it is still a little slow. I think I get a decent gunner what, but I think I get a crappy gunner too, or vice versa, something like that. It's not the best, but it gets the job done. That one I got robbed, it landed up there and didn't even deal damage. This animation right here, this is the animation that you want to look for. If you see that, you deal a third of his life in one shot. This is true if you use the magazine glitch. If you throw the magazine into his lap and you see that animation, you can then pop him with a headshot and deal that same amount of damage you just saw. So this is the run that I finish the tank fight and move on to the next area. So we'll wrap up this fight and we'll go into the nuclear warhead storage building.
See how you like this?
Alright, here I get the last headshot, finally, and we are done with the tank fight. As you saw, it is a fight that's very technical and very annoying. It can be done super fast if you get perfect execution and you practice it enough, but if you're unpracticed like me and you're learning to practice, it seems like a very over complicated fight. What we saw there is one of the few glitches that is actually in this game, and what you're able to do is press your back as Snake against the wall, crouch, and if you look the opposite direction you're looking to go and rapidly unequip the grenade, it allows you to, for some reason, to moonwalk sideways and phase through the wall, which actually skips the trigger of when you get the codec call from Naomi and Campbell stating that you can't use your weapons in this area because of nuclear weapons. It actually skips that trigger, and the reason why is because that trigger only works when you're on your belly in the prone position. However, if you're able to get through that gate in a different way, it doesn't trigger. So you're allowed to basically go through and avoid that conversation. Also, you get a better rotation on the patrol. The patrolman on the top, I accidentally walked into his line of view, but it wasn't too bad. You can punch combo him like as you saw and just immediately grab the elevator. So here we're going to do the Nikita trick. And by trick, I mean hell. Because the gun turrets in this version of the game are much more accurate than they are in the original PS1 version of the game. So I take 2 missiles, I believe, to get this right. Because I'm still getting used to the way the missiles and the turrets work in this game. But the trick is, don't over adjust the missile, let the missile fly, and they won't get hit. But if you position them badly, your chances are you're probably just gonna have to do another missile. I'm gonna grab a little bit of oxygen just to run through. If you did it right the first time, you would have more than 50% of your oxygen, and you could just immediately run to the door. Now, quick thing about all the cameras that you're gonna see me run through here and throughout the rest of the game is they don't count as alerts. So if you were ever to practice for BigBoss run, it only counts alerts, which really only counts with guards in this game. Which is a little bit different from the original. In the original, even if a camera sees you, it counts to some degree. So here, unless it's a regular camera that doesn't have a turret, or if it's a guard, those will count as alerts. If it's a turret, it won't. So here we bring up to the ninja fight, and the ninja fight is actually cheesable. There's going to be a really important glitch here where you're going to see me go punch, punch, Nikita, kick, and what that does is it triples the damage of the kick. The other thing you're going to see me do is you're going to see me fire a Nikita after that combo to hit the ninja. The last thing you're going to see me do is I'm going to hug this wall like it's my oldest friend in the world. And the reason for all of this is the Nikita melee attack is different in this game. And what it does is it does triple damage. It basically does the damage of a punch, punch, kick by itself because you only get the one swing because it's such a heavy weapon. So there's an actual glitch in terms of damage to where if you have something smaller, in this case I use a chaff grenade, I go punch, punch, immediately switch to Nikita, kick. For some reason the game registers the Nikita in your hand, and when you go to do the kick, what it does is it registers Nikita's value and damage for the kick rather than your normal kick, and that actually triples the damage of that kick. So you're basically getting a quadruple punch and kick combo and worth of value in terms of damage. What the Nikita missile fire itself does is it resets his combo counter. So Gray Fox has a combo counter where if you hit him 4 times, he'll move into phase 2 where he puts the sword away and then you're in hand-to-hand combat. If you hit him with the Nikita missile, however, it resets that counter, allowing you to infinitely keep him in phase 1, so you don't ever have to deal with stealth or anything of that. The reason why I hug the wall, though, is it always leaves me with the right amount of distance to be able to get the punch and the kicks without fail. If you're too close and you bump into him, he'll counterattack and you'll take damage. If you are too far, you'll miss the kick and you miss out on all of that Nikita glitch damage. So hugging the wall when he is reappearing to attack you, he puts himself in a position to where he's at a perfect distance once you release from the wall to be able to do the punch kick combo and be able to hit him with all 3 hits. Once we get him low enough, we'll no longer shoot Nikita missiles, as you saw. Move him into phase 2 because you have to beat the fight in phase 2. And then I use the chaff grenade, and the reason why is after his little monologue is I'm able to run up to him. He'll get shocked, as you saw the red exclamation point above his head because he saw the chaff grenade, allowing me to immediately roll into him and get the final hit and end the fight. I don't have to worry about dealing with the stealth phases or anything at all for that ninja fight. If done right and done well, I mess it up a little bit, but if done right and done well, you can actually get that fight in probably about less than a minute. So next we're going to be moving on to my second most hated fight in this run, which is Psycho Mantis, and I'll explain that when we get to it. Alright, so we're going to go back to B1, and we're going to immediately trigger Meryl, so that way she runs into the restroom. And we're going to simply do this by going right behind her, knocking on the wall. She's going to see us, and we're going to run out the door with her. And then we're going to put ourselves right in front of the restroom door. As soon as her character pixelates into the room, it starts the actual cinematic trigger. From here, mash through. And then I'm going to go grab some items from the central area for safety reasons. You don't have to grab them here. To be honest, I don't know why I grabbed the box. Metal Gear Solid 1 habit, I guess. This room you don't have to come into at all. I grabbed the pentazamine. Honestly, you can skip this whole bit right here. You don't need the extra Nikita missiles. We'll actually never use Nikita again. The stun grenades is worth a grab. That was probably the only thing worth coming in here to grab, especially since I wasted so many on that tank fight. There is a glitch that I cannot for the life of me seem to get with this fight, and it's the skip Meryl glitch in this. And the way it's done, it's not so much it's more of an exploit again rather than a glitch, because everything in this game is based on your execution. So the way it works is you want to be able to do precise amount of damage when Mantis appears. So we knock out Meryl here, and like I said, the precise damage, the way it works is when Mantis appears, he's going to immediately do blackout. You're going to see the Hideo name, and you're going to wait for a sound cue. You're going to hear this, you're going to hear him basically unstealth. When you hear that sound, you're going to run to the desk, immediately face right with your M9, shoot, run toward where he's at, which I don't do here. I try a couple times and I mess it up. There's one time where I get kind of close and then I have poor execution. But here's where I'm close. So you shoot him there and then you try to punch him. If you can get 3 punches after that shot, you can then run to where the door is where you first walked in, line yourself up, do another hip fire shot, and then start shooting him at first person view. If you do that right, he'll have enough low health or stamina health damage to where when he goes to raise Meryl the first time and she normally would shoot at you, she just immediately passes out. Now, Psycho Mantis has a really nice exploit where instead of getting a headshot, to do the most damage to him, you can do equal amount of damage by shooting him for some reason in his right leg. Only his right leg. His left leg still does regular body damage, as does his chest. But his right leg, for some reason, will actually deal the bonus damage as if you hit him in the head. Here's where I think I got a little closer. So like I had the shot and then a punch, and I think I get an attempt in this run where, maybe it's the very next one, where I think I get 2 punches and then I lose him. So if you know how he's going to fly and you know how he's going to move, you can actually predict it and actually get the 3 punches and the 2 M9 shots before you even have him go into the middle of the room and levitate the chairs. It's really hard to set up. It sounds easy on paper, and I get mad at myself for not being able to do it, because on paper it sounds easy, but then actually trying to execute it is a little bit harder. So eventually I think I just stick with, I think it's either this fight or the one immediately after, but I stick with it. But if you notice, as I shoot him in the right leg, look how much damage it does. And that's the same amount of damage he would take if you would actually hit him in the head. Now, if I was able to get that set up for the Meryl skip, he would actually have a little bit less health than he does now, and Meryl would immediately just faint right now. She would never take a shot off at me. So here I have to knock her out, and I have to go through that, which loses about maybe 5 or 6 seconds. But in a Mantis fight, losing time is just what Mantis does. He has this random proc chance of doing a soundbite. So anytime you hit him or do an action, he has a chance to say something to it. So here, what I can do is, but I mess it up really bad, and Meryl's gonna die, for the record, guys, so I'm gonna mess it up. But if you actually do enough damage to Mantis in that phrase where she's holding the gun to her head, basically 2 headshots, you then can skip knocking her out, because she'll just pass out because he loses control. Alternatively, safety strat is you can shoot him once, shoot her in the belly, not in the head, because it'll just daze her, and then you can take another headshot at Mantis. It extends the time in which it allows you to save Meryl. So you don't have to be lightning fast. I think I opt to do the safety strat, and then I shoot her, like I said, in the belly, just to get the stun, because if you daze her, even for that moment, if you stagger her, it'll reset the clock it takes for her to pull that trigger. So it allows you just a little bit more time to line up your shot and finish Mantis off. If you do this right, Mantis will never go through his mass teleporting invisible phase where he throws the entire room at you. You skip that entire last phase of the fight if you do it right. But it's a hard trick to set up. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But if you're able to get it, it's really cool.
You are powerful indeed, but I know your weak points. Meryl, stand right where he can see you and blow your brains out.
Stop! Meryl!
Why? Why? No, it cannot be. No.
You gotta love the input eating on this game sometimes. I'm trying to turn my camera and it just won't. So I missed a perfectly good leg shot there, which would have basically ended the fight, or come really, really close to ending the fight. But this game's a little finicky sometimes. And it's not because of the emulator, from what I found. I've discovered that it does that even on the host hardware of the GameCube. The GameCube has been known to do this as well. So it's just something with the, and that shot just didn't register. But even with the GameCube, sometimes this game eats inputs. There's no rhyme or reason why. Um, it's just some sort of physics reading problem, I guess, with the game. Uh, it's a known issue. Unfortunately, it sometimes messes up your run. Now this says use controller in socket 1, and the reason why is because I have my emulator set up to where port 4, which is the port you need to be able to fight Mantis, and port 1 are the same input layouts. So, and I don't change them. I don't have to manually change it in the emulator. I just have them both set, and they're live all the time. And that's enough to have Psychomantis think that I'm using port 4 only, and I'm able to go through the run without ever having to go into the Dolphin settings and changing my controller. So that's why you saw that there. But because controller 1 is live, you won't see that when you load into the next area because it just registers that you were using controller 1 the whole time. So here I missed a glitch because I only just learned about it after this run. But if you use the SOCOM, or I guess if you're really good with the M9, you can shoot Meryl and skip that dialogue. This I do just because I thought this was funny that they added her slapping her butt because Snake made a comment about liking her butt, so she slaps it so you can follow her. I just thought that was hilarious, and I just wanted to kind of just put it in the video. Here you just hug the wall and just make it pass. But yeah, if you shoot Meryl as you're going through that door, it skips the Snake, I thought you were good with dogs line, and it doesn't slow down your movement, so you can actually save maybe about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, just by shooting her and then going through the door. And because you do it fast enough, she doesn't get a chance to actually attack the dogs, or get the dogs to attack you. So we're going to immediately leave, because we can't shoot Sniper Wolf, and we're going to go back to basement 1 of the nuclear building. In the original game, as you remember, we probably had to go all the way back to the armory in the original area and go to basement 2 and open that level 5 door for the PSG-1. We still have that option if we wanted to get the lethal version of the PSG-1, but because this game runs on the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine, it has a lot of the Metal Gear Solid 2 items and weapons in the game. So we're able to grab the PSG-1T, which is the tranquilizer version, which allows us to basically still do the fight, but instead of dealing lethal damage, we'll deal non-lethal damage, which is actually perfect because for Big Boss, the rules on Big Boss is you have to kill absolutely no one, not directly, which is why we let Meryl do the killing earlier. You have to use 1 or less ration, which is why I try to not use rations in my practice runs. Even though it's normal, I try to do rationless just for that purpose of practice, because I do intend to eventually go up to trying to do Big Boss on extreme runs, but I have to get used to not having rations and such available to me. So you can't use rations, you can't kill anyone, and you can't have more than any of the scripted alerts. So a lot of times on the Big Boss run, they'll turn on death if discovered, which immediately does game over if something spots you, which is proof that the turret cameras do not count in that parameter. So you're able to run through turrets so long as no guards or other camera spots you to call reinforcements to get actual people involved. There is no loss of the Big Boss title. So you can run through turrets all day. The downside, though, is if you take damage. So that's the one thing. And then there is a time limit, I think. You have to do it like under 3 hours or something, which is more than feasible on this game. If done right and with perfect execution and a little bit of luck and RNG, this game can be done within an hour. You know, like just at an hour. It takes me probably about an hour and a half or so to go through this game with all the screw-ups I do. So it's more than doable. Now for Sniper Wolf, headshots are your best friend, but she is a little bit of an annoying fight sometimes because she can hide behind that pillar and there is nothing you can do about it to get her out. So that was a pretty good fight. You know, it took the 3 or 4 headshots and the fight's over. That fight can sometimes go way worse. Also depends on how aggressive she gets, you know, because there are times that she'll be out in the open and she won't shoot. And then there are other times where she's out in the open and she's shooting that sniper rifle like it was a FAMAS. So there's a little bit of luck involved there. Now we're going to be moving on to the torture area. But because this is for speed, we're immediately going to give up. We have no need of saving anyone. But then again, this is Twin Snakes, so no one actually dies of the main storyline. We can't even kill Johnny in this game, who's our prison guard, like you can in the original game, because now he's a canon character. So the most you could do is knock him out. There is a little bit of a speed up manipulation we can do here in the cell. And that little bit of manipulation is coming from the famous "shut up in there, will ya?" line. Unfortunately, Johnny has a cold and sneezes, but his sneezing animation slows him down, slows down the cycle of him moving around the room, and we need him to move around the room as fast as possible, so that way he can have a bathroom call, and then Otacon can then come and give us the stuff we need to escape. It doesn't save loads amount of time. Maybe with perfect execution, you'll save maybe about 4 seconds. But 4 seconds can mean, you know, a difference, especially if someone was good enough to be on world record pace.
Oh, damn. I caught a cold. That witch. She took my clothes.
So that sneeze you heard there is the same sneeze he'll do, like right there. And see, he'll stop, he'll rub his nose, you know, because he got the sniffles. However, if we knock on the wall,
Shut up in there, will ya?
if we do it at the right time and the right interval, we can actually skip the sneeze by forcing this soundbite to play. And unlike the sneeze, it doesn't stop his actual movement. So he can actually tell you to shut up as he's patrolling. So we try to do it at specific intervals to just make it a little bit faster. However, a sneeze always comes through no matter what, and it's just nothing you can do about it. But if you can eliminate most of the sneezes, it's good enough. And then this is probably the funniest thing in the whole game. Poor Johnny. Poor Johnny. Now we just wait for Otacon. Fastest way to do that is by the door. I'm just mashing on the knock button because I'm trying to waste time. So just like in the original game, Otacon's going to give us several items. The handkerchief, or the scarf as it's known in the Japanese version, a ration, and a bottle of ketchup, and as well as the new ID card to get through higher doors, the level 6 card. So we're going to lay on the floor, we're going to put the ketchup down, we're going to equip it, and then use the button. If we use it while it's in menu, it actually acts as a ration, which we don't want to do. So you have to actually equip it, then use the button. And then it pretends to be blood on the floor, you then equip the handkerchief, and we just wait for Johnny to open the cell door for us, and then we'll escape.
What the hell?
Now here you can choose to knock him out by choking him. In the original game you could kill him by breaking his neck, but I choose to do the funnier option, which is nature calling again. I still do that even on the original because it's hilarious. Although his cry for help in the original is so much more visceral than this one. It's like that one sounds like he's vomiting. Like it sounds like he's had a drunken night, he's had a few too many drinks. It doesn't seem to work. In the original one though, he has this whole oh kind of sound, and you can almost feel bad almost, if he wasn't, a guard that was meant to hurt you. So we're gonna go back into the snowfield where we fought the tank, and unlike in the original game where there was no guards in that area, there's gonna be guards now. So the layout now is you're going to have whatever remaining claymore mines were in the area, as well as about 3 or 4 guards and like 4 cameras. In the original game, there were no guards. It was just the claymore mines and then eventually the cameras. So what we're gonna do here is we're just basically gonna run past. I messed up my timing here. What I wanted to do was actually stick him up and keep going, but I got a sneeze from Johnny. And that alerted him to my presence. So I knocked him out, put him to sleep, which resets his memory. He doesn't remember actually being beaten up, and then we go through the rest of the snowfield. If done right, you don't have to worry about that whole problem, but I was really trying to avoid that alert because I'm trying to practice big boss strategies, even though this is normal. So we're going to phase through this wall again using the same glitch that we did last time, where we face the opposite direction, mash the chaff grenade, and then head our way up. This pattern works on Extreme also. The one difference though is the guard up top. If done the exact same way you saw here, on the Extreme version, the guard is actually not in front of us at all. He's down the other side of the hallway. And we don't have to worry about it. Now what you see me doing here, even though it looks a little lewd, is I'm rapidly equipping and unequipping. What I find is that it reduces my chance of sneezing because I'm in the middle of another action. So if I do enough actions, it won't allow Snake to sneeze. And this is like the only area where Snake will keep his cold. After that, it kind of just magically goes away. So you don't have to ever go grab the medicine like you did in the original game. You just don't want that guard to see you at all. That's the one thing. So on Extreme, you don't have to worry about that. You're able to pretty much get straight to the elevator, and it's not a problem. And you'll never ever have to worry about it again. But if you stand still long enough after the whole thing with Johnny, you'll actually, get the cold. So here we have the handkerchief or the scarf, and we're able to just go through the wolves without much of a problem. The wolves in this game are actually really deadly as opposed to the original game. The original game, they were a little intimidating, to be sure. But in this game, they're on another level. But because we have the handkerchief, which is from Sniper Wolf, and they love Sniper Wolf, they don't bother you anymore because they smell her scent. So now we're coming up to, for me, the hardest part of this run in learning is the ladder climb, the stair climb. In the original game, I have the pattern of where to use the flashbangs. In this version of the game, it's a little bit different. The flashbang order and how they work is different. Also, flashbangs in this game, the stun grenades, aren't as powerful as they are in the original game. In the original game, they were OP. If you threw a stun grenade, it hit everything and the map that was loaded practically. Whereas here, it has an actual radius, like a real radius. So you have to actually respect that. And that's a new change for me when it comes to this game. Because in Metal Gear Solid 2, you really didn't use stun grenades. At least not that I remember. I mean, I played it casually. I have yet to speedrun it, so maybe we do a speedruns. See, like, this run, this grenade drop, normally would stop them in their tracks long before that. And it doesn't do that here. So I'm going to do about, like, 3 stair climbs. 3 or 4, because I think on 2 of which I die, and then another one of which I screw up so bad I just said, to hell with it, I'm just going to restart. And then eventually I get one to where I get to the end, but it's not exactly the cleanest. In the original game, because stun grenades are so powerful and they hit everything under the sun, and it actually drops them to the floor. See, in this game, the flashbangs, unless they're right on top of them, will actually just get blinded. However, in the original game, there is no blind in the actual thing. Instead, it's a straight knockout. So, if you notice that on that one floor there, I threw the stun grenade, and the first guard got knocked out and actually fell down because he was within the area. Whereas the second guard, the one that was around the corner, was completely able to shoot me. In the original game, that would not be the case. They would both fall to the ground immediately following the stun grenade. And then there's a specific floor pattern that you're able to throw the grenades in the original game that I suspect is here in this version of the game, but it's different because the floors are a little bit different. I don't think there's as many as there were in the original. Either that or their patterns are a little bit different. Also provided the fact that the stun grenades, they're not as impactful here as they were in their original. And like I said, in their original game, the stun grenades were pretty much overpowered. You could use them on anything. Also, this room right here, I don't actually have to do this part in the original game. If I throw the stun grenade into this room with the door open, but I don't cross the threshold of the doorway, it'll start the alert, but I'll skip the animation of where Snake turns around and sees guards rushing to him. Additionally, it also it doesn't allow those guards to spawn, because the trigger that actually spawns the two guards that run down the hallway to get you in that little animation, in that little cutscene, is the cutscene itself. So without that, they don't spawn. So in the original game, I can throw a stun grenade into that room and start the alert, and then immediately start running, and I don't have those two guards on my heels the entire time. So I'm trying to practice and learn this stair climb, and this is a hard stair climb. This is a legitimately very hard stair climb. See, notice there, he didn't fall down, he just got blinded, which means they can still attack you faster than if they were actually knocked out. And of note, the accuracy of these guards, particular in this staircase, are among some of the best I've seen in other games. If these guards were the guards that were everywhere in the entire game, I don't think Snake would have made it this far. Because every other guard I passed through in this game is tunnel visioned and not as well equipped with a weapon as these guys are. These guys, they can give Sniper Wolf some trouble with accuracy. They can snipe me with the FAMAS better than Sniper Wolf could snipe me with the PSG-1, which is saying something. The stair climb in this game is rough. And this is where I find I lose a lot of my patience. Like prior to this area, I'm pretty good with the run. I feel usually pretty confident, and then I get to this part, and this is the part where I just think to myself, okay, how bad is it going to be this time? And of the 18 or so runs that I've come across so far in this game, I have yet to have a really clean stair climb. Something happens. Yes, I can use a ration. If I was to do this whole thing with rations equipped, with the 5 rations, it makes this whole part trivial. You know, they no longer become a problem, no longer become dangerous because I have 5 rations. But I'm purposely avoiding rations, like I said, because I'm practicing for a hopeful attempt at a big boss run. And rations, you can only use 1. And there's one particular fight where we save the ration for, and that would be the Hind fight, the Hind helicopter fight, because of some of the strats that go there, where you purposely are just soaking and tanking damage on purpose. So we try to save the ration for that, but the stair climb is it's a bit problematic. So we're just gonna keep running up the stairs. Now there is a method to where we alternate between the M9 and the stun grenades, and if you're quick enough and fast enough, you can actually use third-person shots with the M9 and knock people out. That underhanded throw there, though, bothers me because you see him pull his arm back, and I'm expecting him to baseball throw it, and he doesn't, and he just lobs it into the gate. Now, the strat there on that floor that has the level 6 door on it is the frozen level 6 door. Is you actually want to cook the stun grenade, throw it into the middle area of this square, because the staircase is shaped like a square. So you want to throw it toward the middle of the square. And what it does is it actually knocks out the guard that's in the back that is the one that is constantly shooting at you. But because he did an underhanded throw for some reason, it hit the fence and bounced backwards. So I don't understand how to get, if I can do an overhand throw. All I know is the stair climb here it's rough. It is not an easy run. Remember what I said about this game eating inputs? There's an example of eating inputs. I'm mashing triangle, the action button, to climb that ladder, and it just goes, no. Like, I could have actually lived there with the smallest amount of health, but I would have lived, and it robbed me of that. So I have to do it all over again, and I think it winds up costing me another 2 runs. So we spent so much time on this stair climb that I think this is probably where a bulk of my movement time loss is in the run, is this particular area. If I was able to one-shot this, I think we would be in a easier spot, but they do a lot of damage. You don't have body armor yet to soak some of that damage and cut it in half. If you had body armor, I suspect that you could probably just run through and throw grenades willy-nilly and still make it to the top and be alive. But because we don't have that yet, this is rough. And that flat floor is actually the halfway point. I'm halfway there and I have half my life left. So that's a real bad sign. And you never want to stop moving. Now the alternative, though, because this is the non-lethal method, the alternative version of doing this is if you weren't going for BigBoss, is you just use the FAMAS. You grab the FAMAS and you basically shoot everyone as you go through, and this stair climb, just like in the original, becomes a joke. It becomes meaningless because you killed everyone there. But we have to do this with 0 kills in order to get BigBoss, and because I'm practicing for that, I gotta learn the patterns of this stair climb. And there again, it eats my input, but thankfully I was able to get up that ladder. So now we're going to come to an actual fun part, legitimately, which is the rappel. And unlike the stair climb, the rappel is actually a lot easier. The rappel in this game, as opposed to the original version, is phenomenally easier. The original game, there is a lot that can go wrong, and there's a lot of damage that you can take. And because you don't get a max heal after everything, because in the original game it was like a Dark Souls before Dark Souls was a thing, where health doesn't restore. You do not get an instant heal after anything. So whatever damage you take, you keep. Because of that, things were a lot tighter. In this game, because it's the PS2's Metal Gear Solid engine, you do get the heals. So this rappel sequence into the following sequence is of little danger. So Campbell's going to call us to teach us how to rappel, and we're going to ignore him, and we're going to find a better way to rappel, which is this little trick right here. Watch the inputs. Notice there's no inputs. I'm not touching the controller at all. And the rappel's done. The way that works is when you get yourself underneath that particular pipe that's there and you just let yourself hang, the game doesn't know what you're doing or what your character is doing or what to do, and all it does is immediately drops you without taking fall damage to the bottom. It registers your character as being on the floor, and it just ends the rappel sequence. So you don't have to make your way all the way down. You can literally skip the rappel sequence. Now this is a little tight little window here, is if you don't get to that corner before the 3 guards fade away and the hind shows up, there's an unskippable mini cutscene of where you see the hind come up and he laughs at you and you're frozen in place. If you're able to make it into that corner though, however, before that happens, you actually skip that. You'll hear it, but you won't see it. And the way you do that is by stepping onto the first square of that bridge, getting toward the upper part of that lip where you see the different segments of the square. Stand on that line and then shoot the 3 guards. If you shoot the 3 guards from there and then run, you won't have a problem making it to that corner, skipping that little cutscene. Unlike in the original game where I can phase through the floor here and skip the entire Hind D fight, I cannot do that in this game, so I have to do the actual Hind D fight. And the Hind D is RNG dependent. The fight can be either really fast because Liquid chooses to be aggressive, or he can be very passive, take his time hovering around the tower, and waste a lot of your time. However, he's not the hardest fight, but depending on how he plays and depending on how his AI works, this is why we save the ration here from here. Because there are some maneuvers that Liquid does that will enable him to deal more damage to us than we can deal to him based on positioning. And because of that, we'll end up soaking a little bit more damage than we originally wanted or intended for that fight. So this is why we would save the ration for here. But you can still do this fight on Extreme without using a single ration. This is actually possible in this version of the game versus the original, where in the original one, you're pretty much guaranteed to use a ration. Specifically, you're going to be using that one ration on either the Sniper Wolf Sniper Wolf 2 fight, I should say, or the Blast Furnace elevator, because in that version of the game you don't have a gun and there's no M9, there's no like everything's lethal basically in that game, so you don't have an option to knock people out. So the way you have to get through that on the original game is you have to go through this whole setup of knocking them off the elevator. In this game, we don't have that problem. And I'll get more to that when we get to that elevator. So because of that, we're guaranteed to use a ration in the original game. In this version of the game, however, it's completely possible and doable and has been even recorded. The world record run, for example, is with 0 rations used. No rations consumed at all for the entire Extreme run. So phase 1 of Liquid is basically you just kind of parading around the central square and hitting him whenever you can. You would prefer to hit him either in the nose, primarily, or the tail. The nose, I believe, does the most damage though, so you probably want to opt for that the most. But the tail does respectable damage and it's easy to track. Alright, so here I messed up my positioning, but you can actually lay a lot of damage into him during this missile phase. If done right, you can actually hit him like 3 or 4 times even before he moves. which allows you to speed up the fight tremendously. Because here is where he can waste a lot of your time. He can circle around the building several times if he chooses to play passive. If he chooses to be aggressive, he can fly from one side to the other. If you're looking at this, it probably seems very reminiscent of the Harrier 2 fight in Metal Gear Solid 2 when you're on the bridge with Raiden. It follows a lot of the same kind of thought process of the game. In the original game, you can actually still track him with red reticles when he's under the floor, allowing you to maintain and get some cheap shots every now and again. But because all this stuff is in your way, it doesn't allow you to properly lock on. So, like a real life scenario. So you can't just magically get, you know, like out of nowhere shots on him like you used to. The nice thing about Metal Gear Solid 2, though, which makes it a little bit easier, and this is doable even on extreme, is crouching whenever you're in the yellow to bring yourself back up into the green. Is it slow? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Can it save you from using a ration? Absolutely. I make a save state here just as a, you know, precaution, because I was a little low and he was starting to get a little aggressive, and I wasn't sure if I would get enough heals before I finished the fight. And that's the Hind D fight. Now, the final position is different in this game versus the original. In the original game, you cannot stand where I'm at right now. In the original game, you have to stand behind that metal box, either in between the door and that box for every other difficulty but extreme, and on extreme, you have to stand on the far side of that box. In this version of the game, because he shoots that corner, you actually have to stand on where you saw me. That would be an instant death spot, though, however, on the original game, which was funny to find out the first few times I was practicing this game, going in blind. I went to go stand in the spot that I thought I would be safe at and completely died. So here we're going to do the grenade strat. So the way this works is I'm going to cook a grenade right before the number 25 right there. Cook it, and on the very first step, on 24, I'm going to release and destroy those 4 cameras. I'm going to do that again on floor 21, 17, and 13. However, on 17 and 13, I mess up my input a little bit, and I have to find an alternate strat, which is basically somersaulting face first down the stairs. But this is something you can do even in the original game. You cook the grenade 1 flight above, throw it the next flight down, and destroy the cameras. Clutch roll there. Really bad throw setup there. So now we're coming up on a fight that I thought was easy in every other run that I've done, and then today wasn't my day. So this elevator fight is actually going to be rough. So normally what you want to do is similar to the guard area, where you go first person view, use B, or in my case circle, to snap to a target, headshot the 4 of them, and be done with this fight. However, I'm a little lower on health than I wanted, and I screw up my timing on this. Also, the snap button doesn't always snap you to the target you want to snap to, and it messes up. Now, because I did not make a save state here, I'm actually going to either continue and do this a second time. And it's much cleaner the second time around, but this time around, it didn't go my way.
Snake, are you okay? Snake! Snake!
Alright, so here we go with round 2. And round 2 goes a little bit smoother. Still some optimization I need to do with it. Still need some practice with it. But, yeah, gotta respect the difficulty of this game at times, because otherwise that can happen. This is a section that in this part of the game where I never seem to have been scared or worried of. Maybe because of all the headshots and stuff. But this particular time, they got me. Not the smoothest fight that I've ever had. Definitely not the worst, as you saw I clearly died earlier. But this fight can be done so much cleaner and easier with some practice put in. Alright, so we're coming into Sniper Wolf 2. There is one spot we're going to stand, which is right here next to this tree. It's probably the best spot for this fight. So we're going to use the Stinger missiles to find her position, and then use the PSG-1T just like we did in the first time in this fight, and try to finish her off as fast as possible. I miss a few running shots, which help speed up the fight. As you saw, I missed 3 of them there, and then missed a headshot. It was a really, really ugly opener to this boss encounter. I had a run earlier where I actually died to Sniper Wolf, kind of recurring the fact of this wasn't my day today. I had 1 death on Sniper Wolf earlier on another run, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Here we're going to actually group ourselves together, and we're actually going to finish her off rather quickly. Try to get as many headshots as possible, and try to limit the amount of movement that she does. The way in which we limit her movement is actually getting her while she's running. So the less life she has, the less time and opportunity she has to actually finish going from point A to point B. And that's the general trick to this fight. As you see, I was getting a couple of their transition shots, I'm sorry. And we just try to finish this fight off. I think the next headshot I end the fight, she's going to come out the tree, yep. And that's Sniper Wolf. We are done with that boss. And now we move into where normally would be the disc swap on the original game, and we're going to be going into the blast furnace, which is kind of a cool change in this game compared to the original, where all the areas were individualized rooms and you can actually cheese your way in and out of the rooms. The biggest nice change is because it's the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine, there's the climbing mechanic, so we don't have to ever deal with that god awful crane again which was in the first game. That first game, the crane could be a deal breaker with just bad RNG. It can choose to be on a bad cycle based on its spawn, and it's terrible. In this one, we can drop down. We grab a few of the items that we need. I'll grab the body armor because of my luck with the previous staircase. I was a little fearful of it, so I grabbed the body armor for the next elevator, and the next elevator goes without much of a problem. And this time, thankfully, it's only 3 people instead of 4 people. And their priority is not really to shoot you versus try to move into a better position at the beginning of the fight. So I'll make a save state here just to be safe, considering how the last elevator journey went. But we ended up not having any issues here, thankfully. Now there is one little mini trick with this setup, is this guard that you see right here. If you don't move, he doesn't move for whatever reason. And as you saw, he's all glitched, his arms, his gun, everything. And he's the least likely to hit you because of that. And also, if you pan around, because you're kind of in each other's hitboxes, you can actually get a headshot and never deal with him. But you save him for last because the other 2 guards that are the ones that are dangerous to you. But yeah, that fight is so much easier on this version because you actually at least still have a gun, in this particular case the M9, to knock out your targets. Whereas in the original game, in the speedrun, if you're doing the skip speedrun, you have no weapon. So you have to somersault the 3 guards off the elevator in order to win. But they deal a lot more damage. You have almost no health because you fought no bosses. It's just a really, really tough fight and more grueling. This version is, in my opinion, a lot friendlier, a lot easier. So it was a nice change. So now we're coming into Vulcan Raven's fight, which has probably one of the funniest changes to ever happen to its fight. I make a save just in case, because it can go wrong. But we don't need the Nikitas for him like we did in the original game for the quick kill. In this actual version, we're actually going to use a sniper rifle, which was a very surprising find for me to discover when I was looking up all the strats and how to run this game. And what we basically do is we take headshot after headshot. And the timing is basically shoot, 1, 2, shoot, 1, 2, shoot. That's about the time it takes for his invuln frames to go away. And if you do it right, you basically take 9 shots to the head, and that will finish Vulcan Raven without a problem. He won't be able to hit you. He'll miss entirely. And the only thing you have to do is make sure you're on the opposite side of the room when you're beginning this. Sometimes he'll like walk towards you in between each shot that you give him. He'll take like a couple steps forward, but if done right, he'll never get close enough to be able to actually hit you. This room is a little bit different from the original game. The original game, there's no guards in here at all. It's just a room of cameras, and you can hug the right wall, the rail, and then the following wall, and you'll never get spotted. Here, I tried doing something a little bit different, and seeing if I can rush through before they turn, and it didn't work out for me, so I decided to just say, go with the safe strat, and just take them out via the M9. However, there is a way of going through this room without being spotted, and barrel rolling through that guard that I just ran past just now. You actually roll through him, make your way to the door before anyone is able to call for reinforcements, avoiding the alert. Maybe their loadout or pattern is different on extreme versus normal from where they start and where they're positioned. So that could be the change potentially. But I know like on the extreme route, they just run right through, and it's not a problem. For me, right here, I'm doing a 2 punch kick combo for timing purposes. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I'm bad. And I always get spotted by this guard coming up. So I found that if I give a 2 punch combo, um, it allows him to turn around as if he's on the stairs and take him out. Unfortunately, I tried using the snap there, and the snap went to a guard that's not even in my line of view, who's completely out of my way. So now I'm dragging him out of the way just so I don't have to ever trip over him again, because I'm going to be using this floor of the platform again. But because I interacted with his body, I wanted to make sure that he stays asleep, so I reset the sleep cycle. All of this is wasting time, by the way. If done right, you'll never have to do any of this. But like I said, I'm bad and I'm learning, so I had to go completely safety. There'll be one more guard I have to take care of. In extreme, it's like 4 guards you have to do. Um, there's the one I just took out. There's one on this floor, but to the far right. One on this floor to the far left, which I'm going to be looking for, who is down the hall. And then one on the same side, but one floor below you. But because this is abnormal, those guards don't exist. Hit the wall, hit him, and he's in a perfect position now to where I never have to worry about his body slowing me down as I run. So I don't have to dodge roll over him at any point in time. I can just move from location to location. Now we're coming up to probably one of the scariest parts. Now, what's interesting is this game doesn't have an alert sequence like they do in the original. In this area right now, at this point in the original, there's an alert sequence you have to escape from to get to the card key. Here, that doesn't happen at all. But we still come up across to one of the scary parts because this game, like I said, likes to eat inputs. And there's a wire that you see me grab onto. There is like 3 frames in that mash cycle of where you can press, where the wire does not register you grabbing, and you just fall to your death. It actually just insta kills you. It like registers you on the floor while you're in midair. It just insta kills you. But that can happen not just on the wire, but any ledge you try to drop down to in this game for some particular reason. You will see that coming up in a moment when I go to grab for the red card key, for the heated up card key. I go to drop down to the platform to use the steam fight. I go to hit the button, and you'll see me just instantly die. Meanwhile, I had just made that to go get the frozen card. So the game's a little finicky. Uh, and I eat a continue here because I didn't make a save state because I did not intend to fail the drop catch. Unfortunately, the game had me fail the drop catch and I had to eat an extra continue. So this whole run I used 2 continues, 0 rations, although to be honest I could have used quite a few of them to make my life easier. And so far in the run, I have not killed a single enemy. What you're going to see me attempt to do here is a third-person view shoot, which I fail. If you line yourself up properly to either one of these pipes, you can actually hit them without ever having on the first-person view at all. You just pop off the pipe. You'll get the effect of either the cold or hot for the card key, and you can be on your way. It saves about 1 second, maybe just under 1 second per each. Again, if you're at a skill level with the game where world record could be a possibility, that is a strat that could potentially save a few seconds here and there, because at that point you're looking for any second you can save. I will say this though, the change in this game that allows you to change the card keys within the same area and not have to do the whole elevator backtracking sequence is a really awesome change, because that saves about 15 minutes, honestly. The backtracking to the Raven Fight Warehouse, waiting about 116 seconds for the card to change, not counting the travel time to get there, traveling back, do the sequence, have to reload all the maps because these are all individual maps rather than one giant room, and then go through the guards, put in the card key, go way back to the blast furnace, do it all again in a much longer detail. It's a lot of time backtracking. Why that was ever a thing, I don't know. If I'm being honest, it always kind of bothered me that that was what we had to do, but I guess we just kind of accepted it. But this game actually does a nice change to where there's two steam pipes, or there's two pipes rather, one steam, one nitro, liquid nitrogen, and those instantly give you the keys. What's funny is, though, if you do the codec calls, they tell you to actually go do the old strats. So I guess you have the option to do the old strat if you so chose in this game, which is interesting. Alright, so we're coming up on the last couple of tricks left with run. The one main trick that we're going to be doing here is we're going to do a codec call manipulation. And what that entails is, after we finish this conversation, normally the camera's going to spot you, fill up with gas, and then you would have to manually call Otacon, and then he'll open the door for you. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to hold the codec input. It's going to immediately bring us into the codec before the camera hits us, call Otacon, and then once we exit this conversation of calling Otacon, we're then going to see the animation as if the door closes and the camera caught us. This would have happened before that, and by the time we get to the door, Otacon's going to call us back and say, hey, it's open. And it's just that fast. It saves probably about 2 seconds. Now going into the Rex fight, this can go either really right or really wrong. I think I take 2 tries at Rex 1 and only 1 try at Rex 2, I believe. Maybe 2 tries at Rex 2. But you can essentially do an infinite combo on Rex if you time your shots right and you stand in the right position. The missiles that he shoots from his legs will never hit you. And as you saw, I was too close, I got hit by the laser. If you stand in the right spot, you actually do not get hit by the laser at all. So if I stand right around this spot, I can be a little bit more to my left if I want it to be. If I hit the radar dome in such a way, those missiles won't hit me. Okay, so it's 3 tries on Rex 1. And I think this is when I get it. So I shoot, catch it, shoot, 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 shoot. And the damage that he deals to us via the cannons are honestly inconsequential. They really don't matter. Because in this game, for some reason, when you're in Nikita, not Nikita, Stinger, I'm sorry, you don't lose your tracking when you take damage. Like in the original game, if you were in this view and you got shot with those bullets, you would actually veer off target. Your whole perspective would change. But for some reason in this game, they don't. So
the damage means nothing. You pretty much tank through it, you get a heal, and you just power on. And you repeat that with Rex 2. The difference being, of course, the target. You're no longer hitting the radar, now you're actually going to hit Liquid in the cockpit. But you basically run the same thing. As soon as the fight starts, you're immediately going to open up Stinger Missile, lock onto his face, and start firing. And if you do it right, he'll never be able to hit you with missiles, which is the only thing that could break your Stinger cam. The bullets mean nothing, and the damage you take is virtually inconsequential once again as well, because you're going to get a full heal before you go into the final boss fight, which is Liquid on top of Rex. So as we master the cutscenes, we're going to talk about the Liquid fight. Ultimately, the Liquid fight in this version of the game I find is ultimately easier than the original, for the simple fact that in the original you have to knock Liquid off of Rex's body in order to win, whereas here you just have to bring him to zero. But aside from that little nuance difference, I still find Liquid to be a little bit easier because AI is easier to manage. But ultimately, there's a little trick and strat that we're going to go for that you're going to see me set up for a few times before I get it, where you can deal massive, and I mean massive amounts of damage to Liquid. The way it works is if you can get him into that top right corner there, like right where he's at right now, what you want to do is do a punch and then a roll. You don't do the kick at all. So I mashed my buttons a little too hard there where you saw him go into the corner and I did the punch kick. I was mashing too fast and I got the kick. But what you saw there where I did the roll, that's what you want to do, except actually hit him. And if you do it right, you can actually do varying amounts of damage. And the reason for this is because Liquid, normally when you hit him with that, in this phase, he doesn't fall to the ground. So what happens is it actually, as you saw there, it pushes him to left or the right. But if you catch him in the right angle, what happens is his body cannot go left or right. So he's kind of stuck. Like you saw there, he went to the left, whereas originally he went to the right. If you put him in the right spot, he won't be able to go anywhere. If you listen there, you could actually hear Liquid scream multiple times, like 3 times, and I did a little bit more damage. The trick is, see it? You heard, like really a succession. If you're able to get him to basically be in a perfect pinned corner with a perfect angle of your throw, of your roll, I'm sorry, you can actually do a near infinite combo on him and chunk a lot of his health because he won't be able to go anywhere, so you're constantly in his hitbox, and that frame and animation of you rolling will constantly deal damage. I eventually get it, and it's really hard to do. It's a pain. It's hard to set up. If you get it like first or second try, it is absolutely worth it. It does speed up the fight. The amount of times that I'm trying it though, it doesn't. I would have probably been easier and faster just to finish Liquid's fight to begin with. But I just, right there, that's what I wanted to see how much damage that was. If you can get that first or second try, it's absolutely incredibly worth it. It's just really hard to do. There is apparently a setup for it that allows you to pretty much almost guaranteedly get some damage out of it, but just, it's still varied. We call it the lottery roll because it's quite literally an RNG and frame skill to where you can get 4 or 5 hits on the roll, you can get a quarter of his health, you can get that 60% you just saw me take. It's very random or precise as to how you do it. So yeah, that's the Liquid fight. As I said, I find it to be much easier than the original because you don't have to knock Liquid off of Rex's body. You just have to bring him to 0 by any means necessary. And that glitch does help. It does make it a little bit faster. It does make it a little bit easier, provided you get it. In the event that you don't, the alternate strat that I find is basically an infinite double punch combo. And what you do is, when he gets into the second phase of his fight, where he has his hands up and he kind of walks around the map chasing you, if you go punch, punch, small circle, punch, punch, circle, punch, punch, circle, in this kind of set pattern, what happens is his AI acts like a drunken guy in a bar fight, where he just very lazily throws a single punch, and then another punch, and then a very lazy kick. In between those punches, punch 1 and punch 2, that Liquid throws, you can step back in, do a double punch, step out. When he throws the first punch, step in, do the double punch, step out. If you do that, you can pretty much do the same infinite combo, and he'll never deal damage to you, really. However, it's a little wonky for the simple fact that sometimes you bump into Liquid and things act up. Now we're in the escape sequence, and the way you get around the no death requirement or the no kills requirement in Big Boss mode is you have to use those barrels. The barrels, surprisingly, count as accidental deaths of whoever's in the vicinity, so you don't actually want to shoot the guards. In this particular guard here, you don't want to shoot that barrel until he walks over. As you saw, I watched him walk over and then I shot that barrel. If you shoot the barrel before that, you have no choice but to kill the guard, which means the very last guard of the game you have to kill, and then you lose Big Boss. So you want to take out the first front barrel, which has the 2 guards, shoot the barrel, it blows them up. Aim at the next barrel, wait for him to walk over. Once he walks over, feel free to blow up that barrel. The one run I had earlier today where while I was escaping, when I first jumped into the car and I was aiming at the barrels to blow up the fence so that way me and Otacon could actually drive out, a guard was standing in the muzzle, like physically in the muzzle of the gun, and it counted as him dying for some reason. I don't know how he got on the car and got into the muzzle, but he did. As far as this escape sequence with Liquid, though, it's very easy. What you want to do is you want to wait until he raises his gun before you shoot him. So the way you get him to raise his gun faster is by actually aiming your muzzle away from him and then sweeping in. So if you look to the left and he's on your right, he'll raise his gun. You swoop into the right, shoot him, and then pull back either to the left or stay on the right, because chances are he's going to shift to the other side. Wait for him to raise his gun. Once he raises his gun, that means his invul window is over, and you can swoop back in and hit him. Basically repeat that over and over again until you win the fight. He takes less hits, I find, in this version than he does in the original. In the original, he takes something crazy of like 30 hits or something nonsense like that. In this one, he takes like 12 hits, 18 hits, something like that, and then the fight's over. So you can get out a lot faster in this version as opposed to the original. But at this point, you're never worried about losing Big Boss. The only thing you're worried about is how fast of an end timer can you get. Because officially when you're speedrunning this, the clock ends when the screen fades to white after you get the final shot on Liquid. That is when the clock ends, your speedrun ends, because you lose control of your character. Alternately, clock starts as soon as you actually hit the begin on the main screen. However, a lot of the runners actually use IGT, in-game time, because this game actually does a very solid job of keeping up on your time, because it only counts the areas where you have legitimate playability of the game, and it has a more accurate time saving or time analyzing of your actual run. This run can actually be done in an hour, and the fastest run, I think, in-game time, even on the GameCube, was under an hour. The IGT was 59, like 48 or something, by Wallman. Incredible run, incredible run. That was literally the god run of the game, and that was on original hardware. So this is on an emulator, which runs a little bit faster potentially, and I'm nowhere near that time. I think my IGT that we see at the end here is like an hour 20, hour 17, something in that range. And that's because of all the retakes and all of the bad movement and stuff that I've done in this run. Anyways, I hope you enjoy and have a fun time watching this run through, this playthrough. Uh, some of the glitches were kind of fun, and what's nice about this run is you kind of get to play the whole game as intended for the most part. Like the one actual skip in the game is just to skip one codec conversation, unlike in the original game where there's the infamous vent glitch, which actually skips 30 whole minutes of the run, which actually makes me kind of laugh now because my Metal Gear Solid 1 game has the same time as this run, and I skipped 30 minutes. So it kind of shows as to how hard and how much longer the original game is compared to this one. Part of that could be because of load times and such, but this was fun. I look forward to running this again and running more of it. Hopefully you had a good time watching this and me explaining what some of the strats that we were doing. Hopefully I can get a little bit better at some of the little nuances like tank fight, stair climb, and elevator bosses. But this was Twin Snakes, my first time actually doing a recorded run, and hope to do more soon. Hope you enjoyed.